YouTube. What is going on? It's your boy Buddha, back in the building for another last Cloudia video build and showcase explanation. Started kind of this new format with the Aldanian video, and even though it does make the video much longer than my old build and showcase videos were, I kind of like the format better because I feel like I can get out a lot more explanation for newer players to start the process of understanding how much goes into building your units as you approach endgame. Also gives you a frame of reference as to what skills you want to look at, what kind of role your unit is, and how to identify certain things. So I want to keep that up. Today we're going a little back in time. We're going backwards to Sera, who was the New Year's unit and the support goddess that a lot of people pulled for, because when a new player usually asks what kinds of unit should I be going for, Sera was a very top tier pick in terms of healing and supporting. So if you did snag her up, don't worry, even though you didn't get Spirit Maiden Tyria, which still is the queen of support in a lot of people's eyes, you got the next best thing, which is Sera, and to some degree you could argue she's even better for certain situations than Tyria. So what do? Starting off these 5-star showcases, we gotta put some respect on Sera's name and unlock the 5-star ward that is available. We did farm up enough souls, so now she's in a comfortable state that I'm very happy to show off. We can see her ward is when robe is equipped, physical damage taken -1%. Of course, individually these wards have very little meaning, but when you start stacking them up and you're able to unlock more and more, they become significant at certain points in your account progression. So there we go. We've got Maiden of Binding, Sera, level 110. You can see 120 out of 120 ward unlocked, awaken 4, ready to show her potential. So look at the stats, check them out. She's got that big old mind MND stat so that she can get those heals. Remember, your active healing and passive healing procs off of your MND stat. Of course, Sera's main role is as a healer, but it's not until we start looking at some of her other features that we see what kind of other support she offers your team. Looking at her abilities, she has one that offers any kind of damage potential, that being the S1 Ether Strike, but we are not going to focus on that at all. That's very much more for the meme style builds if you want to make her do damage cap against gods, which Tweaks has done. However, in this showcase, we're not focused on the meme styles. We're trying to explain a very general way to use Sera that's going to help the majority of newer players. So with that being said, her S2 and S3 are going to be incredible if you can remember to utilize them. Field Fender is going to give that plus 20% damage buff to allies. Immediately right there, you're seeing, oh, Sera is also a damage enabler. Any type of damage percentage multiplying for your physical attackers. I've stressed, especially in the Aldanian video, how important that is. So it's great that she gives that on a repeatable skill, right? You can keep using that S2 to keep reapplying the buff, which is great. And then Ichi no Kagura, restore moderate HP to all allies. That is actually going to be a very good source of healing. So we want to kind of keep that in mind while we're building Sera out, that her skill stocks actually are a little more important than you might think. And then El Sharia, this takes, from what I've noticed, forever to activate, but when you can, it can get you out of a pinch since it revives all of your incapacitated allies and greatly restores HP, and then applies that extra damage and damage cap buff to the team. So right there, just looking at the abilities, we know Sera's an incredible offensive enabler coupled with being a healer. And then her traits, Maiden of Binding. While unit is alive, all allies damage cap plus 2,000. Battle start, apply a strength plus 35% buff to all allies. And then every 40 seconds you use 50 MP to reapply that buff. Gonna look great again with your physical offense enabling. And then Heaven's Guidance, nullify sorcerer, killer, slayer effects, HP recovery cap plus 3,000. So usually healing is just like your damage. It needs extra damage cap raising to push it past your 9999 usual cap. So with that, she can now heal for 12,999, and then when When ally HP is restored by an active skill, apply a buff that restores 20% of restored HP amount after a set time. So she'll give, let's say, a 5,000 healing buff to a unit and then place another buff on them that recovers another 5,000 over a set time. I actually haven't confirmed what set time that is, but you get the gist. Now let's go ahead and look at the innate skills that she comes with to further identify and reinforce what Sera is going to be offering your team. So she starts off coming with a charisma. Remember, these are one stackable buffs, so there can only be one of these active at a time. Other units tend to have charismas if you pay attention. Whoever casts is the one that's going to have their charisma buff active. If then another unit casts theirs, it's going to overtake. So just remember, you want to pay attention for the most part which charisma you want depending on your team comp. However, Spirit Maiden's charisma is a very good one to have since it gives all allies restoring HP with units active skills plus 30% recovery, so gives just an even bigger buff to the amount of heals that Sera and whichever unit has this charisma active can do. So it's kind of funny because we talk a ton about damage modifiers. This is a healing modifier, so it propels your healing capabilities by a lot. A lot of people are noticing when they have Sera in the Tower of Trials floors that greatly decrease their healing, they can still pull off incredible heals with Sera on the team, and it's because of this. With the base stats that units have nowadays, it's all about your modifiers, your percentage modifiers. So the fact that she can give 30% extra healing on top of what is available, that's why you can see incredible healing amounts from Sera very early. So you're immediately getting an incredible healer by having Sera on your team. Comes with God Heal, Starlight Heal, Cure All, Erase, and High Resurrection. Very good to have, so she's got your healing covered. She doesn't have an AoE heal, so we may want to add that. But in terms of individual heals, she comes with God Heal, best time stop single heal in the game. Starlight Heal's great. Oh, I totally lied. Here's her AoE heal. So take back what I said. So she does come with a single target and AoE. Cure All and Erase is great. Cure All especially to take away status ailments, and then Erase to take away any stat debuffs from the team, and then High Resurrection. Pretty much everything you want in terms of castable healing and team survivability, you've got. She has innately once you unlock it. For other spells and team buffs that she gives, Grand Protection, Magic Castle, and I love this, High Vitality Phaser. She loves to auto cast this, which is immediately going to bump all your allies' HP by an extra 2,000 and then recover some HP depending on when she casts it. And then Grand Protection, Magic Castle, giving some damage reduction in their respective physical and then magic areas. Great base magic and spell kit for the roles that she's fulfilling. Moving on to passive, she has MP up max and magic defense up max, which is amazing. More MP and then more MND for the healing. Arcane up 4, Int and MP. The Int I'm not so concerned about, but it gives extra MP, which is great. And then Esoteric up 3. Gives Int, but then Mind and MP plus 10%. MP and MND are going to be obviously the stats that Sera is going to like the most, because you want her casting with enough MP and you want her MND very substantial to give the best amounts of heals. Royal Armor reduces chance of receiving critical hits, so that helps her stay alive. Divinity Shield, another damage reduction against 4 typings, as you can see. Wisdom's Protection adds some more of her int to defense and mind, actually creates her int stat now a considerable factor with the other important defensive stats. Auto heal, right? Amazing sustain for herself, because as soon as she drops to low health in that 30% range, if she has 30 MP, she basically boosts up to max HP again. Healing boost and healing high boost, again, more healing modifiers to make her even better. And Sacred Guardian, just absurd the amount of healing modifiers that this character has. Archangel's Blessing, great for MP sustain in wave-by-wave content. Maglion Shield, some more damage mitigation for herself. A movable object, gonna help. And high-level magic chant, great SC saves for your casters, especially support casters, because you don't want them getting flinched out. Robe Mega Boost, gonna help give her more MND and magic and physical damage taken reduction. Great. And then into her unique skills, Daybreak HP recovery plus another 10%, and then duration of buffs from the unit's active skills extended by another 10%. Heavenly Chakra, continuous grand regeneration, and advanced magic circles. Two very, very great sustains coupled into one skill specifically for our girl Sera. Clouded Heaven special becomes able to deal damage. Again, this is kind of another meme skill that we're not going to worry about in this video, but allows her to hit a lot of damage and damage cap to gods with her special. Normally her special doesn't do any damage, but they decided to get fun with it and give her this this skill right here. And the last one, Yata no Kagami, less likely to be targeted by enemies, which is great. Physical damage taken minus another 20%. And when attacking with the special, apply a strength and defense int minus 35% buff to god type enemies. So couples with the Clouded Heavens to give some extra debuffs to the god enemies that you're fighting. And that is her base kit. So as we could see, she's coming with incredible features. She has great healing capabilities right out of the gate. She does give a couple defensive buffs along with her passive and innate offensive enabling to the rest of the team, specifically PDPS. However, don't forget her damage cap is applicable to all types of damage. It's not just for physical. However, we know that she also gives like strength boosts. Her S2 gives that plus 20% physical damage. So she's leaning towards the enabling of physical DPS, but she is still relevant if you're bringing magic casters as well. She also comes with great stat ups innately, and then a good amount of self-sustain and survivability built within her kit to keep herself alive, which is what you want, right? So now that we've looked at her kit, we see that she's pretty feature complete in the role that she plays. But just like I did with the Ardeen showcase, I want to talk about what do you want to think about when building your support units. This is in general for your tanks, for your other healers like Spirit Maiden Tyria. If you have Tinkili or Lena, what kinds of things do you want them to fulfill in a support role, and how do you want to build them to get the most out of them? So I broke it down, just like I did for PDPS, into 3 categories we want to think about when looking through the different skills available to us here. First off, we want to increase the scope of the utility of these support units. What do I mean by that? Well, as we saw innately, Sera comes with a ton of healing, a couple defensive enabling spells, that being Grand Protection, Magic Castle, and then High Vitality Phaser, right, making the team a little more beefy. And that's it. So how do we want to increase the scope of Sera's capabilities in supporting the team? We want to give her more types of stat up team buffs. We want to maybe give her some enemy debuffs to help the team even further. And we're going to be looking for those types of spells as we continue to build her. So that's what I mean. Giving a support unit more of a scope allows them to cover more enabling and debuffing when you are actually in battle. Second, we want to enhance the current utility of what these support units offer. So with Sera, she doesn't need too much help in this regard. Enhancing what she already offers, that would be making her heals even better, or making her buffs, right, somehow furthering the capability she has of buffing the allies in an offensive manner. So maybe giving Brave Phaser, Critical Phaser, Int Phaser, things to then buff your team's offense more than what she already comes with innately. However, because she does what she does already so well, I think it'll be in your best interest as we go through to focus more on what I mentioned, enhancing the scope of what Sera can do as a support utility. So I think she's covered in enhancing her current utility, but again, we're talking about things that you generally want to think about while building your support units. And then lastly, just like we saw before, you want to think about self-sustain. How is Sera's HP, MP, and even SCT recovery looking? Can she get through a long fight, or can she get whatever battle you're taking her into without like completely draining her MP and being useless, or dying very quickly, or even being able to cast her S2 and S3 reliably so that you can take advantage of them. We saw that Sera has some great sustain, especially for MP. MP is usually the big one when it comes to these support units. She has that passive advanced magic circles, which will give her a regenerative amount of MP based on her total MP pool. So keep that in mind. We're going to want to make that big so that every ticker she's healing even more, or she's regaining even more MP than she would. And then HP and SCT we'll think about as we go through. However, it's really that MP sustain I want you to focus on, and of course keeping Sera alive, which she comes with a lot of great damage reduction for herself already, but we'll see what we can do to even further enhance her abilities to stay on the field, even if the rest of the team is going down. With that explanation, let's get into the long part, right? We now have Sera, we've maxed out her board, we've got some skills taught to her and ready to get her, get that 92 SC limit filled. So as I explained, right, I personally want to focus on increasing the scope of Sera's utility and what she can offer. So we saw that she's pretty much giving the best healing spells already. So I'm not going to worry about giving her any further healing spells. All of these status ailment curing, she has Cure All innately, which is the most broken because it cures any type of status ailment. So we don't have to worry about any of that. Skipping over these as well because she also has Erase, which is going to eliminate any stat debuffs that your units might have on them. She's covered there. Resurrection cures incapacitation for an ally. This actually, if I'm looking at high resurrection, this is actually way better. Even though it's 10 extra MP, it cures the incapacitation and it revives the ally and then restores HP as well. So she's covered. Usually you'll want to throw like Resurrection or Miracle Fluid just because this, I think, has a quicker cast time. Because she's going to have some great casting speed already, we're going to just leave High Resurrection. We don't got to worry about putting another spell. I did forget to mention that. I think I'll include that within the self-sustain, that being her casting speed. Very, very important. We saw that with Sacred Guardian increases her casting speed, as well as high-level magic chant also increases her casting speed. Going to be very important so that when you use a spell with Sera, you're not waiting any long amount of time to proc either the resurrection that you're trying to get off or the healing spells or debuffs and buffs that you're trying to cast with her. Obviously, we're going to skip over all of these offensive spells because we're not focused on that. We want to see extra utility. So here we go. We're getting into the utility spells, that being Grant Protection, Magic Castle. She comes innately, which is amazing. And now, what do we want more out of Sera? So personally, she's already coming with some physical and magic damage reduction for the team, so why not enhance that a little more by giving her Fort Phaser and Matisse Phaser, right? For your DPS units, personally, I want to be spending all of my SC to make them hit the damage caps, perform at their best level offensively, and I'd rather let my support unit take on the responsibility of keeping the team alive. So things like Fast Fort, Fast Matisse, right? You may give your offensive units in order to make the Proud Force heals that much more potent, but if we have a unit like Sera who can have Matisse Phaser, I don't have to worry about giving that and spending that SC on my DPS units. I can just have Sera here cast these two spells, and then they are even more covered. And Sera's able to provide all that utility built into one character. So I think we'll start there. We can give all of our allies extra defense, all of our allies extra M&D. Critical Phaser might be a pretty good spell for you if your DPS doesn't come with auto crit and you don't want to spend or fast crit innately and you don't want to spend the SC on that. I don't think it's a big deal, but if you do even have fast critical on one of your units, which is going to expire 40 seconds after the battle starts, we can slap Critical Phaser on Sera in order to give them that boost again when that time runs out. However, I'm pretty confident that we're going to be clearing these stages within that 40-second time window, so I'm not going to spend the 8 SC to give her this. I just want her to focus on maybe casting those defensive buffs to keep the team alive. So this was more of an enhancing the current utility Sera offers, since we're kind of giving the team more defense in order to help with the damage reduction that Sera already comes with. Here I want to kind of do both at the same time. I want to increase the scope of what Sera can offer while also enhancing what she is already offering. And to do that, we're going to equip Giga Blazer and Giga Lastoma. So now she has these two enemy debuffs offensively, which has increased the scope of what she can do. But it also enhances what she's offering in terms of team defense, because if the enemy's offense is debuffed, they're going to be dealing even less damage to us, especially with all of the other spells that we now have on her, like Matisse Phaser, Fort Phaser. Now, Sera is already fulfilling two great roles, that being offensive enabling and team defense enabling. And we've only spent 24 SC. We haven't even gotten into the passive skills, but just by equipping these certain spells, you can see that we're increasing the scope and enhancing what Sera already does. And while we're at it, why don't we just keep giving Sera some things to help her increase the scope with Giga Drain and Giga Nemesis. So another 12 SC, and we're now lowering enemy defenses even further to enable more damage. So this is more enhancing what Sera's already giving in that offensive enabling. Something big to note, the reason I'm using the Gigas, even though they're 6 SC each, is because this first build and showcase is going to be in wave by wave multi-enemy content. If I was taking Sera into an individual boss fight, let's say like Lambda, one wave, one enemy, I would absolutely switch all of these to their single target counterparts to save that 4 SC each spell. So always try and keep that in mind. Don't just slap Giga Blazers if you're going into a fight with only one enemy, and you know this. We will make adjustments accordingly as we get further, but since we're, like I said, we're starting off with wave by wave content, I'm just going with the all enemy debuffs to make my life easier. Getting into more great utility, week and or Giga Week is going to be huge for you. I'm going to go ahead and select Giga Week since we have it. This is a very limited skill, but if you don't have Giga Week from the UR Theopolis, Week is still going to be incredible, especially when you're taking on tough enemies with high elemental resistances, and maybe you don't have Trishula yet, or you just can't quite hit that damage cap because of those elemental resistances. Week and Giga Week are going to be your best friend since they lower the enemy's attribute resistances by 20. A lot of times bringing them into a range that you can then deal substantial damage. So because we have Giga Week, we're going to go ahead and slap that on her. Anula Melth, of course, I would give to her if I was running like a status ailment build, if I was using Logia or V as my main offense or some of my core offense. Anula Melth on her would look great. Getting into the walls, this is going to be very important if you're taking on a stage, a specific stage that you know is a certain element. Because we're building a general build, I'm not going to spend 5, right? We're going to eat up all our SC trying to equip all these walls to cover ourselves on every base. And I don't think Sera's going to need to provide that much defensive support on top of what we've already given her. But if we were going into a specific fight, again, I'll reference Lambda, who is fighting with the Thunder element. We can go ahead and spend 5 SC to give her Stonewall for even more thunder damage mitigation. Very important. This is part of the reason why Tyria is such an incredible defensive enabler, because she comes with the wall 2s, which goes from -20 to -35%. She has all of those innately. So you can just either keep them all on or swap them on and off in order to manage your spell UI. However, we're not going to worry about equipping this for Sera's general builds, but something to definitely keep in mind. If you're struggling tanking certain hits and you don't have any walls equipped to Sera, giving her the relevant one can really help you out. Then, right after that, the Flame Circle is going to help with further elemental resistance debuffing. So we have Weak, as we saw, giving that -20, and then the circles can provide another -20. But only for one enemy, right? If you're going to take these circles, you are going to have to cast it multiple times if you're fighting multi-enemy stages. But again, the walls and the circles, fantastic. If you're going against a certain boss, you are bringing elements that you need help bringing the attribute resistance down and or tanking that certain attribute damage, always keep in mind your walls and circles. However, for this general build, we're not going to spend the SC there since we want her to be useful in every scenario that we're getting into. With that, we get out of the magic spell list, and you can see we've already spent a very substantial amount of SC, 43 out of 92, almost halfway through what we can spend already, but very worth it. I promise you things. She's able to decrease attribute resistance. She's able to debuff the enemy. She's able to buff our team even further than possible. So now we've done a very good job at adding utility and then enhancing her already built-in utility. So from there on, when we get into passive skills, we are just focused on self-sustain, right? Things that are going to keep Sera on the field longer and either help with MP regeneration, help with SCT regeneration, and or enhance what she's providing in her spell kit now. Just like I mentioned with our Dean, the stat ups, right? It's very tempting to now just be like, okay, all the MP ups, all the HP ups, and now we're basically done with our build. However, I encourage you to wait on that and go through your other passives before coming back. Let the stat ups be the last thing you come back to in order to give the character with extra SC that you don't have or that you have available at the end of your builds. However, here's what I will do. Since I want Sera alive, I think a very good base stat up kit is HP plus 2, HP up max, and then MP up max and MP up 3. Since for 2 SC, you're getting 12% MP. I think this is a combo. It's about, what are we looking at? 11 SC spent, and we get a lot of extra stats in the HP and MP pool. But in terms of all these other stat ups, I'm going to save all this SC to look at what further skills I can give to make Sera that much better. Skipping all of the defense ups, skipping all of the magic defense ups, because we know that she has magic defense up max innately, and now that she has the spell Matisse Phaser, that's going to help her bump her MND up by another 20%. She's going to have plenty of MND with those two, so we're not going to spend any extra SC to give her more than she really needs. Moving down, we can skip a lot of this stuff. Crit ups, I'm not worried about her with that. Aim Vitals, Proud Force, these are kind of relevant to your offensive characters. But then we get into the guard package. So guard, steel guard, vigilance. You can see there are a lot of skills that cost a good amount of SC in order to make your units more tanky. I don't think it's a bad idea if you want to run this setup on your support healer, especially since they're for the most part going to be standing in one spot, not moving, which is when these guard skills are able to be activated. But like I also said, they're very expensive when you add up everything that you need, because with the guard package, bare minimum, you need guard, steel guard, and vigilance. So there's 5 right there in order to make guard really viable at all. And then you get into all of these other ones. Maybe I'd give guard charge, spell guard, heal guard, and then grand guard in order to make guard less likely to break. But you can see that that's 4, 8, 12, 16 on top of 5. We're looking at 21 SC just to give this guard package to her. And I'm not the biggest fan of it, especially since it's not guaranteed damage reduction. It is by chance. So that's a lot of SC spent for a very conditional scenario. And I think we can use the SC for more definite damage reduction, extra damage reduction on Sera to keep her alive. So we're going to go ahead and skip that. Illusion's honestly not a bad skill if you don't have much else. For 5 SC, it's going to help her evade a lot of physical attacks, but again, I don't think she's going to need it too much. The creature shields, right? This is kind of relevant to the same advice, or this is the same advice I'd give like I did with the elemental walls. If you know you're going up against a spirit boss, I don't think 7 SC for an extra 10% damage reduction to that boss is going to hurt you. It's going to help a lot, but very individual or very specific to individual scenarios. So we're going to skip on that since we're doing a general build. Mimicries, we're not going to worry about any hyping strategies. We don't need to give her any other equips because that's not really important. Here we get into something that actually I would advise you to consider, and that is ailment resistances. Because Sera is a caster, we want her able to cast spells, and we don't want her to get stunned. Let's go ahead, confirm, and come back to see what kind of status ailments that she's status ailment resistances she's rocking. She already has resistance to illness, and she's neutral. I'm sorry, to silence, and then she's neutral to stunning. Since we're doing a general support build, we're trying to make Sera relevant in any scenario. I don't want her, even though it's not going to be every battle, I don't want her ever to experience being silenced or stunned, because it's so important that Sera stays able to keep functioning as a healer, reviver, buffer, that those two status ailments would cripple her performance and then make her a sitting duck. So in order to give her true resistance to these ailments, we need to make them +3. I'm going to kind of confuse a lot of new players by saying this. However, when it's a resistance, look at that as +1. If it says nil, look at it as a +2. But then let's say we give illness resistance another +1. +3 resistance is true nullification to getting inflicted with that status ailment. With that said, we need to give Sera +2 more silencing, and we need to give her +3 in stun if we want her to be truly resistant to those different ailments. So how do we do that? We scroll down to where I was at the resistance and nil skills, and we're going to see that we have the ability to give her another +2 with silence nil. That's going to be 8 SC. These are not cheap skills, but like I said, I want her to avoid ever being in those situations. So boom, spent 8 SC on that. But look at that, we don't have stun nil taught to her yet. If so, I would need to equip stun nil and stun resist to get that true +3. But since we only have stun resist, I'm going to go ahead and give that to her, so at least she can resist stunning if the enemy starts being tricky with that. So boom, right there, we still have a good amount, just over 20 SC to spend. So what else do we got? The passive stat increases I'm not going to worry about, since we have the spells castable. As soon as Sera does like a Matisse phaser or a Fort phaser, she is then going to have these stats active. But if I wanted to start out the battle with that buff already active on Sera to maximize her healing from the start and not needing to cast an extra spell, I don't think Fast Matisse is a bad skill, especially since it's only 2 SC. It just gives her that extra MND immediately. So maybe you need to cast a healing spell before you can get Matisse phaser off. She's already got the extra MND in order to get full return on that. Fast protection, fast barrier, again, you could give those to her in order to have her have that damage reduction in case there's like an immediate enemy AoE attack that you can't get your damage mitigation spells on top or casted in time. I don't think the fast skills are bad to invest in her, since they are only 2 SC each. Again, don't get confused. You might want to slap auto regeneration on her, but remember, she comes with that unique skill that a lot of players might overlook because auto regen is built into it has like it's like a shell company spell. It's built into that spell already. So if we spent 11 SC here, completely wasted, since it doesn't stack on top of the unique skill that she has. That unique skill also has auto advanced circles, so don't give her fast magic circle thinking you're giving her more MP recovery, because it's not going to stack. Looking at these fast walls, like I was explaining before, since we're doing a general build, we're not going to worry about those specific element builds. I'm actually going to make an edit to what I was saying before, because we can see Fast Vacation, which is it's from a seasonal SR Ark White Knights Vacation, so you may not have this. However, for 5 SC, we're going to get Fast Protection and Fast Magic Barrier, along with Fast Brave and Fast Aura. You might be saying, why are you bringing this up? Because we spent 4 SC for Fast Protection and Fast Barrier, but for 1 extra SC, I can get the same thing. And since it's giving me Fast Aura, that is going to work very well with Wisdom's Protection. giving us more INT in order to transfer to our defense in mind. So for 1 extra SC, I'm definitely going to use Fast Vacation to couple all of those together. Awaken, another great skill, another great self-sustained skill in order to just keep Sera on the field longer, right? We want her to be on the field when everyone else might be dying so that she can then start doing her revives and healing to bring the team back up to their secured status. So I think Awaken's a really good skill to use. Getting very close to that 92 SC. Let's keep on moving on. Dusk, a lot of people might use, but because Sera's going to be casting so much using MP, I don't think it's a reliable skill to have. We can skip past all of these boosts since she's not casting anything, right? She's not in magic DPS. Skip past weak point boost, healing boost. She comes with all of these healing modifiers innately, so you don't have to worry about that. Great SC saves. We're not going to worry about these poses because Sera's not going to be killing anything herself, so she's not going to be able to take advantage of these so much. The Ale skills, I don't think are a bad idea, especially like if you're doing wave by wave content. Ale of Honor on top of Archangel's Blessing does stack, so at the end of each battle you're going to be recovering 40% MP. A great strategy, like especially in Tower of Trials. However, I'm happy with 30% MP at battle end because I'm looking at my SC costs and I know there are other things I want to spend the SC on. Spirit Breath, okay, I want to keep this skill in mind. I think it's actually a really good skill for Sera because she's going to be doing so much active healing, and if you're doing like AoE heals with Starlight, Sera's going to take advantage of some extra SCT recharge, and then you can use her S2 and S3 more often, so I like it a lot. Goddess Kiss, I think a lot of people might try and throw on their magic supports for extra MP sustain, because in long-term fights you typically only have auto advanced magic circles to give you that passive MP regen every like 6 seconds, which takes a while, but the problem with this is Goddess Kiss, 1, it's 11 SC, it's not cheap, and 2, this is really only reliable when you can deal a big amount or a large amount of normal attack damage. Sera, Spirit Maiden, Tyria, even like your tanks, they're not going to be dealing any amount of real damage that's going to impact Goddess Kiss and make it that good. We're also way over on our SC cost. We couldn't spend 11 without rearranging a ton of stuff. So Goddess Kiss is actually a very easy skip for the majority of your support. Skipping over the damage mods because we don't need that. Physical damage healing and magical damage healing I don't think are a bad source of extra damage mitigation, or however you want to see it, chance to recover some of that damage percentage to Sera, but we're going to go ahead and skip that just because that's looking like a lot of SC that I don't want to spend. And like I already was explaining, there is a skill that I want to skip all the way down to give her, and that is Decoy, just in case all goes wrong and an enemy deals a ridiculous amount of damage that I wasn't foreseeing. We can revive and come back. As you can see, we are 2 SC over. So here's what I'm going to do. Looking at the rest of these, right, more damage mods. Celestial Mass, I don't personally like using this so much, especially in PvE content, because it drains MP as you're taking physical damage, which is then going to take away from Sera casting spells, potentially take away from her auto healing, right? You need a lot of MP in order to sustain all of that. So we're going to skip over that. Chance Drive, these are all more damage modifiers. Cloak of Majesty, damage taken from non-boss enemies minus 10%. That's a lot of SC, especially if the boss monsters are usually what's dealing the most amount of damage. So that's a pretty easy skip for me. Durability is actually a really nice skill if you want some extra damage mitigation, because it's minus 10% damage and all it does is lower movement speed. Very good for your support healers, especially because they're not moving either way. So you can just essentially get minus 10% damage reduction for 9 SC, which is a great return. Everything else here, let's say Christmas Carol's pretty good actually as well, actually very good. Apply a damage taken minus 10% buff to unit for 100 seconds, and effect is cut by 1% every 10 seconds. I actually really like this a lot for Sera because it's only 5 SC and it's all damage mitigation. So I would put this on. This is, of course, from the seasonal collab arc that we just got. But if you have this, that's a really good defensive spell in order to keep Sera on the board longer. Stone World if you want to give her extra defense, but for the 11 SC, I'm not too worried about it. And I think everything else here we can pretty much skip. Here's what I'm going to do because I'm actually pretty confident in Sera's tanking and healing abilities on her own. I'm going to take off Decoy and just give her this right here, Christmas Carol, because I really like that damage mitigation. And at that point, we fulfill that 92 out of 92 perfectly. I was going to go back and take away some of the stat ups. Maybe I think I equipped, HP up max I maybe would have taken off, or MP up 3 to get that perfect 2 SC back. But now that we switched and we're going to take away Decoy, give her that Christmas Carol, we have a very good general, I think, build for a support Sera. Looking through what we've accomplished, we can see everything. We gave her very nice utility spells covering team buffing, enemy debuffing. We gave her that core stat up kit I was talking about with HP up max, HP plus 2, MP up 3, and then she comes with HP up max, magic defense up max, and then all of these other ones innate. It's wonderful. We did give her the ailment resistances needed to basically keep her active 100% of the time, no matter what the enemy's trying to do to us. We are a bit vulnerable since we only have stun resist and not stun resist and stun nil, but I think we'll be okay. Fast Matisse, of course, so that she at least has the Matisse buff before any casting needs to be done. Fast Vacation working very well since we're getting that protection and magic barrier right off the rip, and some fast aura in order to couple with Wisdom's protection more. Awaken, gonna keep her on the field longer. Spirit Breath, so that through her active healing, if she heals herself, she's then getting more SCT stock in order to use her S2 and S3 more often. And Christmas Carol for that extra damage mitigation. Very nice skills. Everything else is innate. Very happy with this build for Sera, and I think it's going to help her be an incredible one-man support, or one-woman support, I should say, for the entire team. Oh, that's always the longest explanation, so now let's get into the equips. What do we want to think about when we're looking at equipment for Sera? There are different options you can take, but I want to focus on what I usually think about with support equips. And it might be funny, but just giving Sera more MP and more casting speed with your equipment, you can't really go wrong with your support type. So we're going to go ahead, switch to MP, and go to the ascending. You can see Heaven's Cry. It does actually give the most amount of MP on a staff, that being 50. Even though the trait has nothing to do with support magical critical damage plus 30%, you're actually going to get the most, I think, out of this MP stat. However, another great option, and what I think I'm going to do, is Maja's Wand, because it not only gives 40 MP to Sera, but it also gives a 167 to MND, which of course we know is going to help with her core heals. So I think Maja's Wand is what I'm going to go with here. Some other options I'd recommend, right? We have Summer Concert Mic. It is a seasonal piece of equipment that comes around every summer, but it gives a magic casting speed plus 3% and a little bit of MP, which is cool. A little bit of MND, nothing too crazy. Tree Spirit Staff was the event staff that came with her. I mean, just gives another recovery magic modifier, which you can't really go wrong with. Imperial Flag of Honor, while this doesn't really give any MP, it does give some decent MND, and it's also going to start giving that plus 20% buff for physical and magical attacks. This is actually a really good staff to give her, and I don't mind it at all, especially since you're not giving a physical damage buff until you can cast one of her S2s. This is going to start the battle with that buff on your DPS, including magic DPS. So this is actually an incredible one to give her, even though it doesn't give MP, like I said. But you do need the UR Ark Council of 10 in order to have this. But another great ability, another great recommendation for your staff. Miracle Wand is cool because it gives that HP recovery plus 20% mod, and also makes the active buffs 5% longer. That's going to stack with Sacred Guardian, I think. No, it was one of her skills, gives an extra active buff percentage. I like to run this wand on Tinkili, and in terms of stats, no MP, but a little bit of M&D, mainly for that trait that I would recommend it. Divine Staff is a really good early game option. I think you buy it out of one of the shops. Stats are fine, M&D 110, and then boost HP recovery when reviving party members. Healing Wand, another very good early game for Sera to use. And I think that's all I'm going to recommend. You can get a little tricky with giving Sera Spear Equip, because the Spear Boost and Spear High Boost, they reduce physical damage taken by another however much percentage. But we're going to stick with what she comes with innately, and since we already filled up her SC with skills, we're just going to focus on what she can come and equip with innately, which are staves. So I think that's a good list of staves for you to go off of. Moving on to robes. Now, we do want to give her a robe to equip, since I believe that's what her ward affects, right? When you're equipping a robe, she's able to take less physical damage. And again, like I said, MP is going to be your best friend in terms of casters for magic DPS and or support units, as we can see here. Three really good options, I should say. Ice Phantasm attire, and this is a Godforge item, but even the one before it that you get as the AER from Galliano Falls is wonderful because it comes with that 50 MP and some really good defensive stats. Also, fire attack damage taken minus 10%, magic attack damage taken minus 10%. So very, very, very good robe for your support types. And it gives you some pretty decent ailment resistances. It'd be nice if it was silence and stun resistance, but we actually can get that from some other pieces of robes that we're going to see. However, just because of that MP and these defense and mind stats, I'm going to give her Ice Phantasm attire, but also go back through and show you other recommendations. Mummy Suit is great, gives her a revive stack in case you don't survive and you don't have decoy. This actually wouldn't be a bad idea to help you out of a pinch in certain situations. And it gives a really nice 999 HP stat and 30 MP stat, so that's going to work very well. Blue Princess Dress I like, gives you that 30 MP, some extra defense in mind, but also, as we can see, gives you that extra stun resistance stack. So I like that a lot. Sinister Junihito, we're not really worried about the ailment resistances, but gives a big fat HP stat, nice MP stat, nice defensive stats, and then it can also serve as an enemy debuff if the enemy is able to kill your support unit. Holy Robe Soul Fiend. Now here's the thing, guys. This I would not recommend you to use. Even though it gives some nice stats and it gives you that resistance to stun, the trait itself, permanent HP and MP regeneration, does not stack with what Sera already has innately, which she has auto regeneration and auto advanced magic circles, right? With those two things, she does not get the trait active on this robe. So keep that in mind. If you don't have anything else for the resistances, the attribute resistances, and the stats, it's not a bad option, but you're not getting any use out of the trait here. I think that covers mainly the exceptional robes that I would personally put on Sera, but like I mentioned, if it has nice MP, it has nice MND, it has nice HP, you can't really go wrong with the robe. Certain, traits are also super helpful, like this Virtuous Saint robe gives another MP plus 15%, even though it doesn't give any MP on the actual stats. There's just a lot of options in terms of what robes work very well on her, but I'm going to keep it at that for my personal recommendations to use. Getting into accessories. Equipments take a very long time to talk about as well. I think it's pretty standard and never a bad idea to always just go straight to Rad Moonstone, since that's going to give an extra plus 20% casting speed. Like I said, we want our support, and especially Sera here, to be casting her spells immediately with no time wasted. We know she has a ton of casting speed percentage increase already, but This Rad Moonstone is just going to ensure that she has that plus 70 or higher % casting speed for instant casting. Also gives MP stat plus 30, which we're definitely going to take. All of our equips are giving some nice MP stats, which is looking great. And for the final accessories, what can we recommend here? Stone Statue of a Bird. Since Sera is not Tyria, you are at risk of getting fainted if Sera gets hit too hard, which is also going to incapacitate her. So if you were around during the Dr. Stone collab, this is not a bad choice at all. Green Diamond, also something I run from time to time, gives 200 HP, which is fine, but also gives you another decoy, basically, or revive stack on Sera herself. Brooch of the 7 Butterflies, incredible to pick because I believe it has the highest MP stat. If we go ahead and sort by MP, go with Descending, 77, great one to use on her. Continuous Regen and Magic Barrier, we're not getting those effects active, but really since it has such a high HP and MP stat, it's worth it alone right there. Sphere of the 4 Jewels is actually a really good AER that's going to work on any support since it gives nice attribute resistances, HP 500, MP 50, and extra damage mitigation to those 4 elements as well. Radiant Soul Crystal is a nice support accessory, HP plus 10%, and gives SCT recovery speed plus 5%, which is considerable for her since her S2 and S3 are going to be so important for her utility. Nice attribute resistances, good stats, MP 30, and then 30 across the board except for HP. Yule Presence, nice as well, HP 250, MP 25, and then 20 across the board with this potential plus 40% to either defense or mind or even int. Sera can take advantage of. It's only if it lands on strength that's not going to help you too much, but also gives her a continuous vitality effect, so it gives her an extra HP bump. I actually like this very much on Sera. Gives her an extra curse resistance, which is pretty dope. A lot of good options, especially if you want to get into very specific builds. But since we are going with the general build, I'm just going to go ahead and slap Brooch of the 7 Butterflies. Actually, no. You know what? I'm not going to do that. I want to give her Yule Present, just because, actually no, I'm at a crossroads right now. I think I'm going to go with Radiant Soul Crystal, gives us that 30 MP, nice stats across the board, but then HP plus 10%, SCT recovery speed plus 5%, kind of like that on her, but as you saw, there are a ton of great options, especially the more MP it gives, and even some traits that can help her out a lot. Anything that's given healing bonus mods, you know the drill. With support style units, that's what you're going to want to look for. Anything to enhance what they're able to do, anything to keep them alive longer, and to give them extra MP, HP, all the above. But with this setup, I like this for a general build, so we're going to go ahead and confirm and wrap up the recommended building. Now let's finally take Sera into some action, show how she enhances your team, and give you some Ark recommendations as well. Okay, Buddha gang, let's check out Sera in action. Before we do that, gotta give you some Ark recommendations. You can see I have equipped on her. This is what I'm gonna be running for this fight, Cloudia the Great. Not only is this just a reroll target Ark for the AER Trishula for your offense, but then it also serves to be an incredible Ark to run on any support that you have, including Sera, Spirit Maiden, Tyria, due to its trait. We're going to ignore this first one, but it is relevant for normal story clearing. When a treasure chest drops, restore all allies HP, which is cool. However, the next part, during battle, all allies max HP plus 10%, so it gives an extra layer of defensiveness. And then when close to death, greatly restore HP and activate a barrier. This is not going to stack on top of Awaken. Technically, Awaken and this are going to pop at the same time. However, it's going to give Sera that barrier, as it says, which will allow her to not flinch and take extra damage, which is cool. We like barriers. So Cloudia the Great, just a great Ark to run if you are looking for a defensive and support Ark. But let's go ahead and look out some other recommendations I can give you. For very early game, I'll go ahead and give an SR recommendation if you really don't have anything. If I can find it, let's go ahead and switch views here. I did just see it as I clicked away. Maiden's Prayer, everyone. It's going to work great with your healers. Specifically, I don't think we have any male healers like that, except for, you know, Ruto and Gorm technically, because you can see it does change. The trait changes depending on who it's equipped to, but most of our most of our healers are considered women, which gives them MP plus 15% and then recovery effects, another recovery mod plus 20%. So great to use if you don't have any of the SSRs that I'm going to recommend. But moving on to that, I already recommended Caldina the Great. Skyship Lonvalion's not a bad choice at all. It doesn't give the best HP stat, but it does give 44 MP, which is cool. Battle Start activates an automatic barrier, as I explained, going to help just tank some initial damage and allow you to not flinch. And then 25% chance to avoid stat debuffs from active skills. This also has an Ark skill, which allows you to provide and manually place a barrier to the entire team. So another good Ark to run on your supports if you don't have much else. March of the Saints is going to be okay while casting healing magic. Great, grants immunity to most interference. So I don't know if this stacks on a movable object or if that is binary. Something to consult Lake with about. When damage taken, chance to recover MP. It's going to be another decent support of MP regeneration. Not sure the specifics because they don't give us much details. Might be negligible. But gives silence resistance +2. So that is a really, really good consideration. And then this also has an Ark skill, which is going to grant you MP and HP when activated. So don't sleep on this March of the Saints Ark either. Mindscape is okay if you have your DPS dying a lot, since if like Sera's the last one alive, it's going to automatically revive all of the units with 50% HP. Also gives some nice when near death buffs, right? Nullify damage taken, durability is 100% of mine. So Mindscape God of Ruins, not a bad choice to run at all. And then moving into your unique and rare arcs, right? You have LR, of course. Don't forget, Valentine's is coming around, which is going to give you access to Maiden's Lovely Banquet. This is an incredible arc for your casters just because of this, or your healers especially, because of the first sentence, healing magic casting speed plus 30%. This arc can easily propel you into that instant casting status, especially, I should mention, because Sera doesn't come with auto recast. So she actually may need this Maiden's Lovely Banquet for that first part immediately. The rest of the trait is very relevant to if you have other female units on the team, but if you do, it's going to give you some nice defense, some extra defense, some extra healing mods, and MP regen, which does stack on top of, like we talked about, auto advanced magic circles. So you know what, I might actually give Sera this arc to ensure we have that immediate casting speed. We're going to go ahead and swap there, but just remember, don't miss out on getting this arc when Valentine's Day rolls around. I mean, we're less than a month away. We're only like 2 to 3 weeks away from that. Santa Girls is actually pretty cool just because it gives that heavy physical damage taken cut buff on the unit. The more buffs that you have, which, as we saw, Sera is giving a ton of buffs innately, and then we also gave her spells to continuously buff your team, which can stack all the way up to minus 30% physical damage taken. Also going to give her that continuous vitality effect and buff your ice damage. If you're running like Saint Lilibet or Shift Medine, any other ice damage dealers, you're going to be providing physical damage mitigation to yourself while also buffing the rest of the team, which is cool. It gives some nice stats as well. 51 MP, right? Always pay attention to the MP stat. Moving on to URs, Theopolis of Los Magnus is just an easy one to throw on your supports if you have it, since for the first 10 seconds it's going to give that heavy defense in mind debuff to the enemies, and have this kind of gimmick with attribute resistances. Can obviously stack well. It gives very, very nice stats, as you can see above me, so an easy choice as well if you just don't have many options for support arcs. And I think that's it. Those are the arcs that I'm going to personally recommend. There are a ton of different options. And of course, arcs, you can get real fun with arcs when you're going into very specific fights and you have specific strategies. But for the most part, I think that's going to cover the general arcs I'm going to recommend for Sera. With this setup, of course, we're just going to bring her and then my favorite DPS at the moment, our boy Ardeen, with the typical setup I have on him and showed off in his showcase video. But when you have Sera, you're going to need DPS to make her actually do what she does best. You're not going to be solo clearing much content with Sera, like I said, unless, like I said, you get a little meme-y with it and take her into god battles. But we're not worried about that. We're worried about a general sense. With this setup, as we saw, we're going to see... We saw Ardeen solo this stage, but now we're going to see how much easier it is to take down this stage with the support goddess that is Sera. So loading into this fight, I have Sera in the first slot, but I don't think there's really anything that I want to cast immediately. Maybe Giga Drain in order to lower the enemy defenses, which is going to help Ardeen just dish out that much more damage and keep clearing these waves faster. So again, remember, we have so much utility built into Sera now that she's able to do so much if you want to just start off strong. So let's go ahead, pop Giga Drain, switch over to Ardeen, and use Council of 10 in order to get the Wave 1 skill stocks and do what we do. He's also casting his Anima, which is going to lower by another plus 20%. So we should be dealing very, very good damage, especially to even these defensive heavy enemies. Remember, we don't have Slayers. I do have God Slayer on Ardeen, so he should do very well in the final wave. Hopefully he'll be able to hit damage cap, because don't forget, Sera is also buffing his damage cap and strength right now. So hopefully we'll be able to see some more consistent caps with Sera's support here. But it's really, like, I don't know if this is the best place to show off what Sera's doing, because Ardeen doesn't necessarily need the help here. But I'm just going to keep doing what I can do. We're going to activate the Anima. We're going to activate Giga Drain, even though she's using her normal attack there. We're seeing a lot of nice damage caps. Not quite white caps on certain enemies, but I think he's at 25,900 or 25,099 damage cap at the moment. If we get Sera's special, we could propel that by another 3,000, but I don't think this fight's going to last long enough for us to do that. Go ahead and do the same exact thing. Do some debuffs right here in order to make Ardeen hit even harder. And just spam that S2. Yeah, we can definitely see... we definitely saw some frozen damage caps of that 25,000 number I was talking about. Remember, those are dual-wield hits. So basically 20 or 12 hits of 50k is no joke. Very nice that the Anima stacks with Giga Drain. And let's go ahead and just keep doing what we've been doing. There we go. You could see for a quick frozen second, that Ardeen is completely obliterating these enemies now. Compare what Ardeen was doing solo to what he's doing now. That's actually not a bad look. But here we go. Now we've got some things that we can start doing. Sera, I want her to probably do the same thing. Giga Drain, we're going to do his Anima, make sure we got all those debuffs on the enemies, and then start doing our S2 if we don't get flinched out of it. We do have God Slayer on this man, so this fight should be going a lot better. That fight went so much easier than when we tried to solo it with Ardeen, because don't forget, we have Sera there to not only do healing if she needs to, but she also got to take some enemy attraction away from Ardeen so he can go ahead and do what he does. But also, we took down that stage so much more quickly with the offensive enabling that Sera's offering Ardeen. Okay, so now we're going into a fight. We're going to be taking Sera into Pablo, or Pablaboria the World Boss, which I haven't actually done in a very long time. We know that a lot of today's standard DPS doesn't really struggle with this, can usually solo this boss. However, I think we will be able to let Sera shine in the role that she's playing just a little more than we were able to previously. Especially with Ardeen, we're going to take advantage of some fun little gimmicks of his that I didn't quite show off. But with Sera, I did make a couple changes, right? Because I want to emphasize customizing your builds in order to handle the fight that you're taking on. So since we know Pablaboria attacks with the earth element, we're able to kind of go back on what I said when we were building Sera and remember that, oh, we have walls that are able to be taught. So Flame Wall is going to reduce earth damage by another 20%. And this is going to be very important since Pablo does launch off some pretty heavy nukes from time to time. If we're not able to kill him fast enough, we will need to be able to tank those hits. So the first start of this fight, we're going to make sure to make our defenses stacked. And then in order to get that 5 SC, I know Pablo can't actually stun us, I think. I may be wrong, but let's just assume he can't. So I was able to take off stun resist for that 5 SC that I was lacking. If I can get back down to it fast enough, we were able to take stun resist off, and I just left everything the same. I don't think we can get silenced by Pablo, but I left it on just because all I wanted to do was give Sera the wall. And so I took off stun resist in order to do that. Equips were going to stay the same. Of course, you can interchange a ton of stuff. However, with her spell casting, her team buffing, her enemy debuffing, she's going to be able to do everything I need for her to do. And then our Dean, I do want to show what I changed here. We're going to be taking advantage of his flame call. Since Pablo is super weak to fire, we're going to get some extra damage cap. We're going to get fire skill damage increased. And then I did give him Godblade Kagutsuchi for extra fire physical attack damage, extra crit rate. And we're going to have one of our attacks be of the fire element, which means our Goddess Kiss procs are going to be looking very, very, very nice. So with that being said, let's go ahead and see how Sera is able to help us take on Pablo here and make our Dean just look that much better. So we got to remember what we want to do. We want to buff the hell out of us defensively and then make sure that our Dean casts Flame Call, and we should be good to go. So immediately what I want to do, I want to get all of the defensive spells casted before Pablo launches his nuke. So first we're going to start with the Flame Wall. I'm going to switch over to our Dean. We're going to use Council of 10 just to get skill stocks right out of the bat. But I want to continue casting, I want to continue putting defensive spells in the queue so that we're ready to take on the nuke. So after that, let's go ahead and do Fort Phaser. Let's go ahead and do Matisse Phaser after that. And then I want to debuff the enemy, but while she's in her casting queue, I'll go ahead and do Council of 10 to get some skill stocks. Giga Drain in order to, no, let's go ahead and do Giga Blazer in order to lower the stats of this first Pablo. And of course, we're trying to get all of this casted before the nuke, so it does take some effort. Let's go ahead and cast Flame Call so that he's ready to go. I think I also want to lower the INT just in case the nuke scales off of that for some reason. And then after that, I want to go ahead and do High Vitality Phaser. I don't think Magic Castle or Grand Protection helps us here because I think Pablo's nuke is considered special damage. So this isn't going to reduce any damage at all. Flame Wall, decreasing the offensive stats, increasing our defensive stats. That's what's going to help us tank this first hit. And High Vitality Phaser is just going to give us an extra HP pool to sit on. With that, I think we're ready. I didn't get High Vitality Phaser off, but let's see how this damages us. Hardly anything. Even with that big nuke at the end, I think we are ready to just now demolish this guy. I'm going to go ahead start doing some crazy Kimbers, as they are called, and then we can go ahead and hit Starlight Heal for some AoE healing right out of the gate. And my goodness gracious. Yeah, that's nice damage. That's great damage. Remember, we're getting cap increased from Flame Call, and we're getting cap increase from Sera herself. I think we're going to be just flying through these Pablos, which is incredible. If I can keep having her cast Starlight Heal just to get that Spirit Breath, that would be amazing. We also have enemy AoE debuffs that we can be casting at the same time, which is awesome. Let's go ahead and do Giga Drain. I don't even think we need to. Maybe we'll just do Giga Blazers and Giga Las Tomas to take care of these guys. I mean, our Dean, it's amazing that we can just turn him into a fire element and he becomes an absolute monstrosity. I could have given Ardeen like WAP here or Honey Elixir in order to recharge his skill stocks fully, but I think luckily it won't matter too much. Let's go ahead and what should we do? Recast Flame Wall. I think we're losing a lot of the buffs that we casted initially. But then let's go ahead and do Starlight Heal. I think I have Spirit Breath on Ardeen, which makes us get a little bit of regeneration back with those heals. What else can we do? I don't think we really need to do much since we're absolutely destroying everything. We're destroying everything with this guy. But see here now we have no skill stocks, which is a pain, but we do have Starlight Heal that we could just keep casting off. And pretty easy, we have pretty easy, what's it called? Regeneration. Or pretty fast, pretty fast SET regen. Luckily, these two Pablos are stacked together, so we can just kill them at the exact same time. It would be really nice to have full skill stocks to burst this last Pablo down right now, but I think it's a good opportunity to buff up our units once again. We're going to go ahead and do Grand Protection. We're going to cast a Flame Wall. We're going to get all of the defensive buffs up again because we will have to wait out this next Pablo while we charge our skill stocks, right? So we got all that out of the way. Let's do a Fort Phaser. Here comes the last and final Pablo. Not worried about it. Let's go ahead and do Matisse Phaser since we're here. We're going to normal attack with Ardeen just to get some MP back because look at that MP charge rate. We went from 30 to 379, okay? So we're looking pretty good. I think if we can do some Starlight Heals, we should be good. And look at that. With the very nice MP pool that Sera has, even with all of this casting, we have an ample amount of MP to finish this fight off. Although this is juggling us, which is quite annoying. I want to keep Starlight healing. We'll keep on normal attacking. We're at full MP with Ardeen. Going back to Ardeen, like I said, with Goddess Kiss, his MP regen is not something you need to worry about. We're just going to keep Starlight healing, and I think now we're going to Jet Sting and burst this guy down completely. Yeah, that's just stupid, man. That's just stupid. Just stupid. This fight is really annoying. We have our defensive buff, so I'm not too worried about it. I think if we can just Jet Sting this guy to death, that would be cool. He's about to, he didn't even get one of his ults off. We didn't even get to see Sera's ult there. We just saw absolute destruction with this combo right here. If you have Sera and Ardeen, you literally don't need a third or fourth party member, okay? Now to wrap up the showcase, I want to go ahead and bring Sera into a multiplayer battle because I think if you don't feel like you have ample DPS or enough skills to teach your DPS unit for multiplayer fights and you want to contribute to these battles, especially in pickup groups, Sera's going to be a great option because she's going to help be that defensive enabler for the team and make the offensive teammates hit even harder than they would without her. So I think she's a very good multiplayer unit to run, but here's kind of the main reason I'm doing this. Make sure, for the love of God, even if you're going to bring a support unit and run them on auto, take off time stop spells, please. Because I'm telling you, they only serve to waste time in 99% of multiplayer matches. All we're going to need for Sera, on top of her buffs and debuff spells, is Starlight Heal, which is a non-time stop heal for all the allies, and her Revive. I promise that is all you're going to need. Maybe Erase and Cure All, but for healing, just bring a non-time stop spell. If you don't have Starlight Heal unlocked and you can teach your Healing Wind, go ahead and do that. But stay away, please, from God Heal and Stardust Heal, because you may think that you're helping the team with the healing, but I can guarantee you in the majority of situations, it is multiplayer etiquette to not bring time stop spells. Since we're taking on Green Gate right now, I can literally leave the exact same build that we just saw since we're fighting a bunch of Pablos in this stage. So obviously she's not going to help much in those initial fights, but let's wait and see if we can get a lobby filled. Hopefully we don't get flooded with other support units, and we can see Sera's impact in a multiplayer match. And here we have a team. We can see another Sera has joined us with her UR Ark. But we have Leona and a Roy here as well. So I think in terms of DPS output, we're not going to have any problems with this pickup group. We'll even be cooler to have two Seras absolutely buffing the offense of the team. Now here a lot of people would opt to run auto. That tends to be the typical thing, especially if you're running defense or support units. Personally, I don't find this very fun. I like to be a little more engaged. And since we gave our Sera so many spells for utility, I'm going to go ahead and act as that role and actively cast these spells. But again, with this kind of build, you can let her run on auto and she'll go ahead and cast buffs and debuffs at her own leisure. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to lower everyone's defense by casting Giga Drain just to help Leona and Roy take down these units much more quickly. I'm going to go ahead and cast Giga Weak because that's going to help Leona deal some more damage, even though I don't think she needs much help. Especially with these initial waves, it's mainly the last wave that we're going to have to be a little more active. Make sure we get a flame wall up before that Pablo casts his ultimate. And I may just skip these scenes until we get to that point. Here we go, moving into the final wave. Now this Pablo, it can either launch the ult like that or it waits a couple seconds. We're going to try and get Flame Wall up quickly. It's going to be tough because we have so many spells to sift through. And if it launches it immediately, I'm not sure we'll be able to do it in time. So we're going to go ahead and just focus, click magic, and Flame Wall. Didn't quite get it. As you can see, we are still in the middle of casting it, which is really unfortunate. Someone is dying. Luckily, we did not. But now we can go ahead and do some Starlight heals in order to make sure everyone comes back. I can even go ahead and resurrect this because I guess the other Sera doesn't have a revive, sadly. Neither do we. Don't forget. You see those ridiculous heals that we're doing. We're doing 12,999 Starlight heals. But now I can go ahead and just cast debuffs galore to make all of these Pablos shiver. And because they know they're not going to do shit to us. Grand Protection, make us all extremely tanky. We've got mad buffs all over the place. We have so many buffs. Let's see what this ultimate does right now. Peanut damage. Peanut damage to the crew. I'm not even going to activate that stone. I'm just going to go ahead and Starlight heal again. Get everyone up. Get everyone up. Didn't even need to do that second Starlight heal. Look how good we're doing on MP right now. This is ridiculous. I'm going to go ahead and Giga Weak just for the hell of it. But, and then we're just going to cycle through again. Do our Giga Blazers. Do our Giga Drains. See how fast we're casting? It's truly wonderful. Giga Lostoma, Giga Nemesis. While Roy and Leona take care of business, we can just have fun. Let's go ahead. Bring the other Sera back to life. I clicked the wrong spell. Let's bring the other Sera back to life again because it's not fun to just sit there dead. It's not fun to just sit there dead. Fort Phaser again. Matisse Phaser. We're just chilling, everyone. We're just chilling. You can see El Sharia still isn't even close to being charged up all the way, so we're probably not going to see it at all in this showcase. I'm going to go ahead and Starlight heal. I don't think anyone except the other Sera needs the help. But, doing so well. Let's see how much MP regen that we get. We got 2 plus 19, so about 21 MP regen. You can see it's not the craziest, but it definitely helps. We're going to go ahead, do another Flame Wall, do another Grand Protection, do another Magic Castle. Let's lower this guy's defenses. Giga Drain, Giga Nemesis. Let's do a Giga Weak to help out Leona, because obviously this thing resists earth attacks a little more than everything else probably. High Vitality Phaser, because why not? Give everyone some extra HP. And just like that, with only 2 DPS, with a 4-man Pablo team, we survived 2 nukes, easy as hell. And we're absolutely contributing to making those Pablos much easier to take down with a pickup group. So, like I'm saying, with a setup like this, that much utility, you can absolutely be useful. The only time we would have been screwed is if it was like 4 Seras or 3 Seras and a Spirit Maiden Tyria, vice versa. Can we get a Mega? No Megas that run. Oh well, but it's okay because the point was made. Sera can be an absolute asset in your multiplayer teams, in any type of content, PvE in this game. The only place I haven't tested her and still am not confident enough to give you advice on is Arena. But for PvE and a general Sera build, you've got the gist, I think. This video covers everything. An hour and 52 minutes. Gotta chop and edit, make sure it's all nice and concise. Get ready for another second Buddha podcast, which by the time you're seeing this, it's already over. Because that's how these character formats, how to build videos are going to be coming at you. A lot of people received the Aldanian video very well. They liked the in-depth explanation, so plan on keeping that format. It just takes a lot longer to obviously film, record, edit, post up, etc. But hopefully I'll be able to get this up by 6 p.m. tonight. So I need to shut up and get to editing. Guys, let me know what you thought. Let me know if there are any other building tips to Sera that I forgot to mention, or how you've been using her. Like I said, you can get tricky and fun in endgame, making like DPS Sera meme videos. Tweaks has already covered that well in the past when she first released, so go check those out if you haven't already. And I'm excited to see your thoughts and feedback. Hopefully it helps a lot of people. Like, subscribe, bell notifications, subscribe if you're new, join the Buddha gang. Y'all know the drill. And with all that being said, y'all know what we say: work hard, play harder. See you in the next video.